Hello, hello, hello. Today we are going to be using the grid techniques that we've learned in the previous classes to continue our endangered species project. So with using the techniques that we've learned, we are going to grid our source photo. So before we get started, please make sure you have the following items ready to go, and we will get started in a moment. You need your source photo, you need a ruler, and you need a sharpened pencil. Our champs for today are conversation level 0. Raise your hand if you need help. This is our grid work activity. There should be no movement, and please give me your undivided attention so we have success with this project. I'll give you a second to get started and get your things together, and we will begin. So, you guys will be using a pencil. I don't care what pencil you use, just make sure the tip is sharp. I don't care if you use mechanical or a regular number 2 pencil. That's up to you guys. I am actually going to be using a pen today because I want to make sure that you can see my marks made. Okay? So let's get started. Let's talk about our ruler for a second. I know we've already talked about this. We're going to talk about it again. Every single ruler is different. My ruler that I've had for a long time is a corked back ruler. I have had it since college, and my 0 starts a little bit in from the edge. It starts there because this has a round corner to it, and therefore it wouldn't be proper to have the 0 start on the edge. So please make sure you know where your 0 is. Most of the classroom rulers start at the very edge. So double check that you know where that is. Your source photo is a 4 by 6 photo. 4 by 6 inches. And this grid that we're going to do is a 1/2 inch grid. So some of this may be review for you guys, but I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and there's no confusion as we move on. So much like we did with our razorback design, we are going to start on the very edge over here. Please make sure that your 0 is lined up on the very edge, and at the halfway mark between 0 and 1, you're going to continue the line up almost like it was a continuation of the ruler mark, and we're going to put our tick mark there. So remember, these tick marks need to be straight. They should not be off to the side. It should not be a dot. Have it be just a little tick mark, much like a hyphen or a subtraction sign, and it should just continue straight out from your photo. So 1/2 inch was our first mark. Now we're going to go every 1/2 inch until we get to 6. So double check that you're at 0, and we're going to continue. So we have the 1/2 inch mark. Now we have 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 4 inches, 4.5, 5 inches, 5.5. Double check your lines. When we did this exercise with our razorback grid, not a lot of you, some of you were marking your tick mark on the wrong mark on the ruler. So please double check that you're going off of the correct line so we don't make a mistake in the future. Okay, I'll give you a minute to catch up, but your photo should look like mine at this moment. So now that you have the top done, what we need to do is put the tick marks at the bottom. If you remember, we talked about this a lot with our grid exercise for the razorback. You have to put tick marks at the bottom. If you do not, your lines will 100% be crooked. And some of you learned this the hard way last time. So let's make sure we all do it correct. And we're going to take our ruler, line it up at 0. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing we just did at the top, but now at the bottom. So 1/2 inch, 1 inch mark, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.5. Now remember, guys, you need to be on top of your ruler. So if you're sitting way far back from your ruler, it's possible that your lines are going to be off. So make sure that you are looking down at your ruler. Let's continue. 3 inches, 3.5, 4 inches, 4.5, 5, 5.5. Okay. So now that I have all my marks on the top and bottom, now it's time to connect them. So if you guys remember, I talked a lot about where the position of your ruler should be, what hand holds the ruler and whatnot. So let's just go over that real fast. So, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see this at the bottom. What you need to do, you take your non-dominant hand. I am right hand dominant, so I'm going to take my ruler and hold it with my left hand. I need to make sure that my ruler is not going to move on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my ruler up with the tick mark. Okay, and remember, the ruler should not be on top of the tick mark. It should be right off to the side. So since I'm right-handed, I'm holding it with my left hand. I have full access to this edge of the ruler. If I held it a different way and had to cross over, that's going to mess up my lines. So make sure that you're holding your ruler with your non-dominant hand and it's clear space for you to make the line. You don't want to have your thumb in the way because you'll have a little thumb bump that we've been calling it. And this will just make sure that your lines are right. So let's get started. So I have my ruler lined up. Remember, the ruler should be just to the side of the tick mark, the same width as your point, and you're just going to connect it when you have it in the right spot, as so. So you are going to do this for every line all the way across your picture. And take your time doing this. This is not a race. We're not trying to beat our neighbor to finish it first. Double check that your ruler is lined up properly before you make your line, and that you're putting a good amount of pressure on your ruler so it doesn't move on you. Now your source photo is rather small, so it's not hard to keep the ruler in place. But when we do your final paper, which we will do in a moment, it'll be much easier for the ruler to move on you. So make sure you're holding it correctly, holding your ruler correctly. And we have one more. Okay. And there is our first set of lines. And if you didn't know this already, I am working with the red panda. Okay. Take a moment and finish, and we will do the horizontal lines. Okay, now that you have your vertical lines completed, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our paper and we are going to line our ruler up just like we did at the beginning on 0. Which I apologize, the lighting's a little off. You can see the 0 line is right at the edge. And I'm going to make my marks. So it's every 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches, 2.5, 3 inches, 3.5. And those are my lines. So again, we need to repeat the bottom, repeat what we just did at the bottom, therefore our lines should be straight. So take a ruler, line it up at 0, and go ahead and start your tick marks. 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 inches, 3.5. Alright, you guys are going to become pros at this, I promise. So now we need to connect your tick marks again. So take your ruler, line it up just to the side of your tick marks, just enough for your pencil tip to go completely through this tick mark that you made. Remember, our goal is that when you do your line, that tick mark disappears. Okay, so that's if that's what's happening when you do your line, you did it 100% correct. So keep up the good work. Always double check your ruler. And as you guys do this more and more, it will of course become much easier for you. We have 2 more lines to go. Okay. And there is our completed source photo with the grids. I'm going to extend these lines out just a little bit because we have to number and letter them, and I just want to make sure that each section is clearly defined and there's no confusion. I'll give you a moment to catch up, and we will begin in a moment. Alright, now that you are done with your lines, we have to number and letter these. So if you remember with the Razorback, same exact order. So it doesn't matter if your photo is horizontal in the landscape position or if it's vertical in the portrait position, depending on which way your animal printed. It doesn't matter. You are going to hold it the way that you should view it. So, you know, this is Red Panda, he's looking right at me. This is the way I want it. But if I had, I don't know, a dolphin coming out of water this way, you're going to hold it like this. So just figure out the placement of your photo, put it exactly in front of you. Now we are going to do numbers on the top and letters on the side. So remember, we are doing our numbers in the center. Okay, you do not want them off to the edge where the line is. It will confuse you. So do it in the center. So you're going to number all the way across. Make sure it's nice and legible. And you're filling every single square. And there we go. You have your completed grid that is now numbered and lettered, and we are ready to start your final size paper project. Thanks for doing such a great job. Let me know if you have any questions.